Henry Ford is a man known to almost everybody throughout the world, I should imagine. Little did he realize, I'm sure, when he started producing cars back at the turn of the century, that he would build cars in many countries throughout the world, and very popular cars too. We're spending a very pleasant day here at Rolton in Wiltshire at the Nostalgia Show, and our cameraman is specializing in classic Fords, and here there are many. This is a fine example, or at least a few examples, of the famous V8 Pilot. Now that was produced between 1947 and 51. It had the very well-known Ford V8 engine put into it, which was 3,622cc, a V8 side valve, and very tough, popular cars they were. Despite the 8 cylinders, they only had a 3-speed gearbox. And here, coming on behind that, is the pre-war version, which was an American car. And you can see that the post-war British build, the old Dagenham V8, was based on that. Here, with its police signs up, is a very typical example, because these were used throughout this country by many, many police forces. And I remember serving very well with the Avon and Somerset Constabulary when we had one back in the 60s for skid pan instruction. And I learned to drive that old car sideways as well as forward. Here are a couple of pre-war Fords, American built now, possibly with V8 engines. Some of them with the old 4-cylinder, like the Model A type. But we're going to concentrate today mainly on the British classic Fords. That's a typical American style one. And of course their American styling did come over here after the war, when we started producing some that you will see later on. But certainly Ford is a name that is used on vehicles throughout the world, and of course some of them aren't called Fords, although they are basically Ford based. That's a rare beast, that one, with the estate body and of course the van body, as you see here. Not many of these were produced. The V8 was very much the tough saloon car. We didn't find all the known examples of Ford here, but there are so many clubs here at Rolton, so many individuals, that I'm sure you'll be satisfied in the grand selection that our cameraman managed to unearth. Back in the period when opening windscreens were the norm in those days. Wouldn't fancy going down the motorway with 70 miles an hour on the clock now with the windscreen open. These had quite a good cruising speed and quite a lot of power for their size. There you can see what was known as the bent wire gear change, the 3-speed box, quite a pleasant change. The brakes were what was known as hydro-mechanical. This was typical of a police uniform long before the popular jam sandwich versions came out, painted in their attractive reds and blues, etc. And of course the Winkworth bell situated on the front. Not a lot of good in today's noisy traffic situations. Slightly different version here. This is the stretch limo version. I doubt very much it were produced by Ford. It's probably an adaptation built by some enthusiastic owner. Quite a bit of room in the V8 Pilot as it was, but certainly a stretch version like that. Now we're going over to the Ford Zephyr. The Zephyr Mark I was produced from 1951 to 1956. It had a six-cylinder engine, 2,262 cc. Had a top speed of 80 plus. And now we're going on to a console, a later model now. Zephyrs and consoles were built alongside each other. This is the later job, the Mark II. Found this collection in the Ford owner's stand. The Mark II console, I believe, was built between about 1956 and 62. The consoles were, of course, four-cylinder engines as opposed to the six cylinders of the Zephyr, but still a three-speed column change gearbox. Plenty of boot space and what we referred to earlier, very much the American styling. Just after World War II, we were very influenced by the American styles, and as you can see here, it's a matter of a scaled down version of their big American counterparts. Here's the Zephyr Mark II, the different shaped grille, and of course the six-cylinder engine. Unusual one here, as much as it's the open top. Quite roomy cars, just a smooth bench seat for three in the front, hence the column change. You needed three to keep you behind the wheel when you're going around corners. You tended to slide up and down in these somewhat on the smooth plastic upholstery. Bit of an added extra there with the wire wheels. Quite an attractive front, and another car very popular with police forces. When they came out first, they would be fitted with cross-ply tyres in those days, and the road holding left a little bit to be desired, but one had to drive accordingly. The 2.5 litre engine certainly proved to be very reliable. One subtle change did come out during the life of the Mark II, and that was the height of the roof line. It was lowered after a couple of years production to make it, yes, a bit more attractive. I'm sure you enthusiasts out there will notice the difference between the two particular body shapes. This particular model is the Zephyr Zodiac convertible. The Zodiac was the deluxe version of the Ford Zephyr. You had a little bit of gold lettering on there and a bit more added trim. It was just the deluxe version, but more sought after among the people who could afford such. This particular one has certainly had a few alterations and a bit of breathing on in the engine compartment. Another alteration one could have done to one's Zephyr was the estate back. This could be done by a firm other than Ford, who would merely cut away the back end and put on this very attractive estate rear. And what a roomy, useful vehicle that was. Looks like it's been down to the local dealer or Halfords or somewhere and had all the added accessories put on. These cowls over the windscreen were very popular back in the 50s. From 1961 to 1962, Ford came out with the Capri 109E. This rather streamlined, very Americanized individual was popular for those seeking a different image, rather a classy sports image. This particular two-seater was fitted with a 1340cc engine, and some of them had the 1498cc. Unfortunately, this was a vehicle that suffered very badly from rust problems, and we're very honoured, I say today, to see so many examples that have survived and been rebuilt. This time it's a floor-mounted gear change, as you can see there. And typical of the era's plastic interior. Now this is rare, I would say almost unique, to find one of these models that's been converted to the estate version. It's the Consul Classic station wagon. You don't find many of those on the roads of Britain today. Beautifully cared for, though, isn't it? Another adaptation from the Classic and Capri stable, the pickup truck. It's a very strong club, this, and they certainly have some beautiful examples of vehicles that we thought were going out of fashion very quickly with the rust problem. It wasn't only Ford suffered from rust back in that era, nearly all the general production cars had the same problem. There she is, as a fine example of the classic, either the 109E or the 116E. A foreigner by all accounts. Interesting feature here on the Ford Classic is the rearward sloping back window that was copied from the very popular Ford Anglia. So I said earlier, a well-represented section, the Classic and Capri section. Now we're going back a little bit in time now to the famous little Ford Prefect. The Ford Prefect was a name given to Ford's little 10 horsepower car before the war, a different style to this. But in 1953 to 1959, this little car came out with that well-known, well-tried 1172cc Ford side valve engine and the 3-speed gearbox. Simple little cars, very simple in their mechanical layout, but how reliable and tough they were. And there's a lot of people on the roads today who cut their teeth on a little Ford Pop or a little Ford Prefect. There's the Anglia we referred to. The life of the Anglia started in 1959. Produced first of all with a 997 engine, and later the Super one came out with the 1197cc engine. These popular little cars, well, certainly served their owners very well. Good performers, quick, economic, and they had a 4-speed gearbox, which was the first 4-speed gearbox that Fords had produced for a car in this country. And what a lovely gearbox it was. They got it right, first time. You can see the unmistakable rearward sloping back window they had, which was quite a talking point at the time they came out. And of course, Ford's produced a little overhead valve engine on this occasion, as opposed to the old 1172 side valve that they'd run for so many years. Yes, these were produced as saloons and vans and gave long and steady service. The second car I ever owned was a little Anglia similar to this, in the typical Ford red and grey. And what a fine lineup we have here at Rowton. The Anglia Super, that denotes the 1197cc 4-cylinder overhead valve. They were produced from 1962 onwards. And that's the identical colour to the little 997cc model that I had. But of course I didn't have that fancy stripe down the side. That's the Super. Here's the van version. I wonder what history that could come up with. Something pretty faithful and reliable for some small firm for sure.
Your attention please, would Gina Barry.
Not such a small firm after all. Another attractive version was the estate version. Here you have the best of both worlds, the car comfort and the extra load space. Yeah, many an old person walking around remembering their life with Fords or other old cars here at Wroughton. Now here we've got the big Granada, commonly known as the Grandad. The Granada was the big version of Ford's car fleet, and what a big, large, comfortable saloon it was. This is one of the old originators, most of them fitted with a V6, as we see quite clearly here, 2.5 litre. Big, roomy, American styling. There's the interior, and just looking now through the steering wheel I see that this one is automatic, and with a size engine like that in a big car, well, that was luxury itself to have the automatic gearbox. Well, another famous car here, the Ford Cortina. Cortinas came around in around 1962. The particular Mark I. They were produced with different size engines. There was the 1198cc and the 1498cc, and of course they went on into the sports world, where some were altered by Lotus, the Lotus Cortina. They're quite characteristic by their paler colour and the green flash down the side. But these cars, simple and rugged, were sought after by many sporting motorists because they lent themselves to tuning and lent themselves to a good hammering. And of course this particular model was the forerunner to a very long line of Ford Cortinas. A useful estate version there. Very proud owner here with all his paraphernalia and history mounted on the roof. He's been to the accessory shop too and bought himself a sporty steering wheel to fit there. A lot of these Cortinas had very sporty life, and of course this was the GT Cortina, which was the sporting version. They had a power output about 83 horsepower, I think. We have a little lineup here of, on the left is one of the earlier Ford Anglias that run from about 1948 to 1953. Then that's that particular green model there. They had the 933cc engine, little side valve engine, very simple in its construction, and the whole chassis was very simple in its construction because it had a couple of leaf springs, crosswave mounted, just to give you simple roll-on corner type suspension, but it was reliable, and these cars were built down to a price. Very popular, as the name states. No fancy electronics on there. I wonder if a car of this nature would sell now that had been cut down to the minimum. The windscreen wipers on these cars were run from the induction manifold, and if you put your foot too hard down, well then, you had no wipers. You had to lift them just to get a bit of action. Not really suitable for today's traffic. And that's the Prefect. And that was produced from 1938 right through to 1953. That had the 1172cc side valve that we speak of so often. Very, very famous engine. Still that same old simple suspension, common to what was known as the perpendicular Fords. Motoring in these old Fords was not a luxury, but it was available to a lot of the poorer people who could not afford one of the classic cars of those days, the big expensive built vehicles. And here we have a brilliant example of the simplicity and the engineering in the Ford, built by the Ford apprentices. It just about takes you right the way through, shows you the chassis and the simple suspension. Drew a lot of interest in this.
Quite a good collection of cars, not as many as you've got here at home, I know, but for those of you who like a road run and are not in the natter, now there's even bigger than coming off now. Some of them are just happy.
Back now to our little Poplars and Anglia styling. This was the style that followed on the from the upright Fords. This particular one's the Prefect again, which is a good follow-on from the earlier one. And here you've got coming down to more conventional styling now, sitting down on the road just that little bit better, but still very simple in construction, and the same old 1172cc engine with a 3-speed gearbox. No more chassis in these days, it was unitary construction. And this particular model was in construction from 1953 to, I think it was 1959. And they sold an awful lot of them. Over 100,000. Another fine example here. Look as though it had a smack in the eye, doesn't it? Looks like it's in its original state, this one. These weren't too bad in the rust stakes. Some of them rotted through, depends how they were treated, but properly cared for, a good sound little car. Remember buying one for £60 for my son to start his driving career. Now we come on to the Capri. The Ford Capri started its life with a Mark I, that was a 1300 or 1600, in 1969. They went on for many years. This is a later version here. This is the laser model, possibly 2.8. Yes, that's right, the 2.8 injection engine, and that was capable of well over 100 miles an hour. Now the Capri Club of Great Britain is still a very strong club. And I remember when this particular car came out on the market, I mean the early first Capris, such was their styling that they were known as the poor man's Aston Martin. Sporting bods loved it because of their styling. And quite a lot of those early owners still have one today, with many nostalgic memories of their youth. Very good styling. 4-cylinder engine mainly. Some were fitted with the V6 or the V4. Another our big Granada automatic showing off on its stand now. That's the coupe version. Another of our Mark I Cortinas in immaculate condition there. Proud owner lifting the bonnet for all to see the wonderful renovation that he's carried out in there. Not a speck of rust. They used to rust terribly around the suspension tops, and that would be an MOT failure straight away, but looks like the modern owners have overcome all that, and just look at the finish. That's better than Henry Ford did it. The Mark II Cortina. This was also a very popular Cortina. Nice styling, much better road holding, a lot of comfort. They built these in 1300, the 1600 cc. They also did a 1600E, which I suppose the Mark II 1600E is one of the most sought-after classic Fords of today. I once owned a 1300 version of this with an automatic gearbox. A rather gutless performer, but it was a nice car, and we had good service from it. Very attractive and timeless shape was the Mark II Cortina. There, he's shown it off all around the ring. Now back to the stand. One of our early Cortinas again, but this time the Mark III. This was known as the Coke bottle shape. Very American styling. Various size engines and trims. The top line trim was the Ghia model. That's the name and firm adopted by Fords to embellish their top of the range. As you can see with the styling from the Mark 1, 2 and then 3, they're getting bigger all the time. There's got to be a limit somewhere. We'll come to that. We come along now to another Ford Zephyr, which is the Zephyr 4 Mark III. Most of our Ford Zephyrs, as I said earlier, were 6-cylinder, but this is an exception. It's got a 1703cc 4-cylinder overhead valve engine, which was the replacement for the Ford Consul, this one. But you can see the big body, everything's getting bigger. There was also a model listed with overdrive in this range. But still the same column change. They did produce a Mark III Zephyr for the police service with a floor change 4-speed gearbox. So. The Army were issued with a lot of these Zephyr 4s as staff cars. Rugged and reliable, as ever. Now we've come along to the little Escort. The name that stuck with Ford for many, many years. This is one of our early Escorts, another car that the enthusiasts soon found was easy to tune, and not only the engine but suspension. And this is an unusual Ford. We don't see many of these now. It's the 2000E Corsair. The Corsair was built with a V4 engine in it. Similar in styling to the German Fords, the Tonus. The Corsair was produced with two different engines. One was a 1663 V4 and the other one was the 1996 2-litre V4. This particular model we see here is the latter, being the GT. Quite an attractive car, but not produced in the numbers that the Cortinas of that day were produced. Now we're going on to the really big Zephyr now. This is the biggest of all the Ford Zephyrs. This is the Zephyr 4. Either 2-litre or 2.5 litre engines, V4s or V6s. Quite a huge car, and I think they found they just about come to their limit by this time, and they're quite a lumbering big vehicle. I remember driving them on occasions. When you look out across that huge square flat top front, you thought you're up in an aircraft carrier after driving the conventional British cars. These were produced from 1966 to 1972, and I think they turned out something in the region of 102,500 of them. Power steering was available, and automatic gearbox is an option. Another of our big granddads, or Granadas, the 2.8 injection Ghia. A later than one we saw earlier. This is based on very much the same shape as the Mark III Cortinas that we saw, just a bigger version. Nice roomy cars, very common as a staff car or taxi. Some of them were very luxuriously fitted out, as you can see here, very comfortable, very roomy. Not too bad on the economy for their day. Fine example here of the little Escort that's been painted up. A lot of these were used in rallies, etc., because of their rugged build. And of course Ford produced the 2000 overhead camshaft engine. I think that's what we have fitted in this one. And put one of those in there and a couple of row bars and hot up the suspension. You, in those days, had a rally car par excellence. Yes, the RS2000 certainly earned its fame back in the rally fields. Big Granada estate. Fords always seem to manage to produce something simple and suitable for the working man, and yet they were so adaptable, and motoring enthusiasts would hop them up and tune them and thrash them. They seem to have that Jekyll and Hyde personality about them that all sorts of motorists found pretty handy. And what better style can you have of this little Escort estate here, with an extending top ready for camping. A bit cold up there on a frosty night, I should think, but cheap accommodation. Another of our little prefects or Anglias there for police purposes. I know the Somerset Police used loads of these as a section car or a sergeant's car. And what's more, this one's got the Somerset registration. There aren't many branches of motoring history or types that haven't found the name Ford useful on some occasion or another. Hope you've enjoyed looking at these classic Fords. There's a lot of them left, and they go on a long time.